Just going to share this online. Just so that way I can reach as many people as possible. And I'm going to post it one last area. Actually, one last area here. And there we go. And again, if you have any questions about the system and you're watching this after it's live, you can always ask in the comments of this video, as it will turn into a video, and I will gladly answer in the next stream. Shoot, did I ever change the thumbnail? Yes, I did. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. Alright. Just checking. Okay, yes, people are tuning in now. And there we go. So, looking at the 5-day forecast for Tropical Storm Podul, I believe that's how you pronounce it. It is a Korean name. The system is expected to move west and gradually strengthen over the next several days. This unofficial cone only goes out to 5 days, and we're forecasting a typhoon over the next 3 days. So over the next 72 hours, or even sooner, it could become a typhoon, and then continue strengthening as it moves westwards. Currently only predicting a mid-range Category 1, but that could be conservative. And it could be on the high end if the system fumbles to intensify. And looking at the possibility of, or the impacts, the threat level this system poses, we can see that there are going to be marginal impacts for parts of the Northern Mariana Islands, mainly for rainfall and wind, and there could be some marginal impacts for northern Luzon, parts of Taiwan, parts of the Sakishima Islands. It is quite far out, so we are not certain about that, but there could be marginal impacts in the form of rain and wind. Looking at the possibility, now this is only possibility, this isn't set in stone, there could be some slight impacts in parts of northern Luzon, including the Babuan group of islands, the Batanes Islands, and throughout the Luzon Strait into southeastern Taiwan, and parts of the Sakishima Islands. All those areas could experience slight impacts in the form of either destructive winds, destructive winds like winds for knocking out power, stuff like that, and maybe some minor flooding. Now, I want to reiterate, this is 5 days out, so we're not certain on this. We will get more certain as time goes on, but this is certainly something to watch. Again, if you have any questions and you're watching the stream live, like I see a question right now, you can always ask them in the chat, and I will ask them later in the stream. Now, if we take a look at the world of tropics right now, we still have a lot going on. Actually, a lot more than the last stream. We have, and again, this is a little bit out of date, we have in the Atlantic, we have the remnants of Dexter, now a post-tropical cyclone, zooming off towards the east. We have Invest 96L with a 40% chance of development over the next 7 days, with a 10% chance over the next 48 hours. We have an area of interest here, which would be a tropical wave right behind 96L with a 30% chance over the next 7 days, and another wave here, or another little disturbance with a 10% chance over the next 7 days. And we have another frontal system over here that has a 10% chance as well, mainly in the 3 to 5 day time frame. Looking in the eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Evo here, which is expected to become a hurricane south of Baja California, and we have Tropical Storm Henriette, which is expected to become a hurricane north of Hawaii. This would be the first time a storm has strengthened to a hurricane north of Hawaii in nearly a decade, since 2015. We also have Belu here in the eastern Pacific. Its post-tropical remnants are going to continue speeding off towards the northeast. May see some impacts in Canada and the Alachua Islands, but not a whole lot. Now, looking in the western Pacific, we have 16W, which is now named Podul by the JMA, and we have 96W with a 0% chance of formation. We also have a tropical storm Awo, I believe is how you pronounce it. It has been named and has winds of now 50 miles an hour, and it is expected to continue moving southwest, but it is going to move into cooler waters, and it should start weakening. Looking at the satellite imagery on Tropical Storm Podul, we can see that the system is sheared, and it does have an organized low-level center here, but a lot of the thunderstorms are being sheared to the south. You can see right over here, all the thunderstorms are just consistently being on the south, and the center is exposed. So it is going to take some time to get better organized, because right now it's exposed, so it's not really it's not able to develop as much as if the thunderstorms were consolidated over that center. And here we go again, we can see on infrared imagery, we can see that center now running out of the convection. It is going to remain with some shear over the next few days, but it should lighten up. If we take a look at the environmental conditions of the system, and we take a look at shear, we can see right here, it's not really getting sheared a whole lot. I believe it's more so that the center is jogging out to the north, away from the storm. But we do have this little disturbance right here, forcing on some shear from the north. It will continue to move into a lower shear environment, though. Before it eventually actually gets into a higher shear environment, but we can see it is forecasted to reach Category 2 strength by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. That's also because of sea surface temperatures here. If we take a look at that, currently it's in around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius, but could go over some pockets of 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, especially by the time it reaches potentially Category 2 strength. Just something to look out for, as well as oceanic heat content here. Very conducive for rapid intensification if it wants to try that. I want to reiterate, this is over 5 days out as well, or around the 5-day range. So it's quite uncertain as to how quickly it will organize. As we can see right now, it's quite lopsided right now with its center exposed, so we will take some time rebuilding that. Looking at the distance away from certain areas, we can see it's near the Mog Islands right over here, generally around 50 kilometers away from there, roughly around 750 kilometers away from Guam, and over around 2,500 kilometers away from the Philippines, and same for Taiwan, and for the Shakishima Islands, 2,200 kilometers away from there. So again, a lot of time to watch the system. If we take a look at the models haven't not been handling the system that well. They didn't really even detect formation. But if we take a look at the European run, it does show it strengthening over the next 2 days before gradually weakening out and fizzling out by the Ryukyu Islands and the Sakishima Islands. Looking at the American run, it again shows the system generally strengthening over the next 48 hours before gradually weakening and moving in towards Taiwan. Not as really a strong system at all. Looking at the German run, it does show the system again strengthening over the next 48 hours and then quickly fizzling out. And if we look at the Canadian run, same scenario. If we take a look at the European ensembles, we can see how they're quite widespread, and some of them are showing typhoon strength as it goes through the Luzon Strait. Then beyond that, it could impact even China. Again, it's very uncertain that far out. It could go down towards the Luzon Strait, towards Taiwan, the Sakishima Islands, into China. It is just quite uncertain this far out. Again, here's a look at those ensembles here. Pretty spread out on where the system will eventually go. Everywhere from Luzon up towards China should be watching the system closely. If we take a look at the American ensembles on the system, again, it's quite spread out, but more ensemble members are showing typhoon strength. Out of this, some even showing major typhoon strength. We can see that on here. Generally where the system's going, either northern Luzon or over to the Ryukyu Islands and the Sakishima Islands. Taiwan's under the gun, same with the Babuan group of islands and the Batanes Islands. Could see the system moving through as a typhoon, or could see it as a nothing burger, like nothing really at all. Just it's quite far out, and the system has overperformed model expectations. And it is a small system, as someone mentioned. And here it is on here. We don't have much radar imagery, but again, you can see the center exposed. And if we take a look at the rainfall forecast over the next 5 days for several models here, European model not really showing anything. Same for the German model, the American model, showing some amounts of rain here, maybe 2 inches or 50 millimeters or so of rain in northern Luzon. Not a whole lot. Same with the German run. Again, models aren't really handling the system that well, unfortunately. And if we take a look at the Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast, they have it as around 35 knots right now. Personally, I believe it's around 40 knots, as a scatterometer pass confirmed that. Over the next 48 hours, though, they are forecasting it to rapidly strengthen into a typhoon, before then continuing to strengthen and reaching a Category 2 peak around day 4 to 5. And as you can see here in this cone, it includes parts of the Ryukyu Islands, the Sakishima Islands, Taiwan, the entirety of Taiwan there, northern Luzon, and the Babuin Group of Islands, and the Batanes Islands. So again, a lot of areas here could get impacts. We do not know where it's going to go yet. It could go in that northern solution in towards the Sakishima Islands, or it could go for the southern solution towards Luzon and the Babuin Group of Islands, or it could even go towards Taiwan and the Batanes Islands. It's just too far out, really, to say for sure, but it is definitely something that should be watched. Again, here looking at the higher resolution imagery, we can see the sheerness of it right there, or the center moving north, where all the thunderstorms are gradually moving towards the south. I do believe that this is some shear going on with it. We haven't really seen any new thunderstorms begin to flare up, really, only around the southern part. Okay, now time to answer some questions. TCXLC32 Animations asks, when did 16W get named Podul? I believe it was within the past 6 hours or so. One of my friends let me know about that, and also the Wikipedia page shows that the Japan Meteorological Agency has named it. Ryan's Animation says, hi, hello, how are you doing? And TC also says that Podul is a small system. Yes, it is very small compared to Luzon, especially if we see the system here. It's only really around 150 kilometers long, but the thunderstorms to its south are an additional like 300 kilometers. But generally it's a pretty small system, so it came out of nowhere pretty much. And unfortunately these small systems can rapidly intensify, but they can just as easily get torn apart by hostile conditions. So we will have to continue to monitor the storm over the next several days. I will, of course, have more updates on it if the code system allows for that. So if we get upgraded to code orange, code red, etc. on it, and eventually even a live stream landfall coverage if it does make landfall as a typhoon. Yeah, if there's any other questions, you can always ask. Just gonna check, no questions on Twitter or X. No more questions on YouTube. I am going to take a look at the global view of tropics one last time using the European AI model. Generally showing what's expected over the next few days. We have this one wave that we should be watching out for, potentially approaching the Caribbean islands, mainly the Leeward Islands, and then the Lesser Antilles. Something to look out for. I wouldn't go too long range, that's unrealistic. Maybe something behind it as well over the next 10 days. And then something else behind it, maybe. Again, the Atlantic is beginning to wake up. Looking at the Eastern Pacific, not a whole lot to look out for. The system, or the basin, should quiet down quite a bit, and I believe the same is true for the Central Pacific. Not a whole lot, besides what could be Hurricane Henriette. And if we look at the Western Pacific as well, generally staying quiet. Maybe something developing in the South China Sea. I did note that as a possibility. Haven't marked it yet as an area of interest. But again, the world is beginning to quiet down in the tropics. We did have quite a big burst of activity. Looking in the North Indian Ocean here, we could see a land depression try to develop over India. That's predicting generally favorable for that. And if we look at the Southwest Indian Ocean, nothing really else trying to develop. So generally the tropics should begin to quiet down. Well, that's about it for me. Again, looking at the cone of the system here, the unofficial cone, should become a typhoon over the next 3 days or so, mainly 2 to 5 days. Could become a could deliver slight to moderate impacts in several areas, just quite uncertain as to where it will go. As always, I will continue to provide more updates in the future. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next update. Stay safe.